Industrialists and techno-bros, pack yourself a lovely little pasty luncheon, polish the cage for your digital canary, and dive headfirst into the crypto mines as did your forefathers before ye.
Yo, because it's time to talk Tull to me. Dude,
Download Tull.
Dude. Do you even crypto? Dude?
The podcast is going directly into my micro server. Megabyte.
Welcome back. I am Omen Sade.
And I am Nick McGill.
Together we are Feckless Momes.
And this, my dear friends, is Talk Tull to Me.
A disruptive new technology in the global industry of prog rock, in which nickel cadmium Nick McGill and Omen Operating System Sade will upgrade our CPU by downloading directly into our intrabrain every gigabyte of music that aggro-futurist rock band Jethro Tull ever produced. We will compute with delight the data stream of megahertz Martin Barr, process the intricate codes of JavaScript John Evans, and blast our bandwidth with Barrymore Bluetooth Barlow. And someday, with enough software updates, we hope to eventually have the raw processing power to understand the beautiful binary of Ian Adobe Acrobat Reader Anderson. Speaking of which, I really gotta increase the cybersecurity around my backend. I unzipped my server last night and got spammed with malware.
As an IT professional, I am very concerned at what you just told me. As your friend, I am even more concerned at what you just told me.
I've tried plugging it and unplugging it a bunch of times.
It just didn't work.
It was great. I had a wonderful evening. But
yeah, had a couple drinks.
Nick, hello.
Hello, Oben. Good
Welcome
morning.
Back to the podcast. To you, fair listener.
Welcome again. Thank you for visiting us week after week. We are darn near the end of Stormwatch.
Is this indeed the last bonus track off of Stormwatch, Nick, or have we any more?
We've got one more after this.
Oh, my
This
goodness.
is our penultimate bonus track. We are going to be talking urban apocalypse today.
Wow.
But before we go into the bright and sunny future that is urban apocalypse, we're gonna do a little email here. Marley, if you don't mind, could you bring this over, please?
Marley! Here be your email, and I'll give you here is a bouquet.
Marley, thank you. That's very sweet.
The nettles are blooming very pleasantly this afternoon.
That must be why you're itching profusely, yeah?
Hey,
Okay.
don't get too close to the bouquet.
Yeah, you leave that in the corner and go take an oatmeal bath. After I finish recording, I'll check on you.
Slather me with calamine lotion.
If you play your cards right, I just might. That's the phrase "make me pink." That's where that comes from.
I'm not familiar with that phrase.
No?
What's
Never-
the content
never
of the
heard that?
email that you just received there?
This is from a new writer inner,
What?
Johnny A.
White innocence.
Subject is new listener wants to say great work.
Oh.
Johnny says, "Hey guys, stumbled upon a Tull episode when searching for the Too Old album on Amazon Music, which I listened to in the past but had since removed. I was a big Tull fan in my teenage years in the 70s and did catch a few live performances before and during Songs from the Wood tour.
Wow.
From time to time, I will listen to the older stuff. Never got into the post-70s releases, and I'm still amazed at how good they were. Don't get me started on the Hall of Fame snubbing. Yes, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame still does not have Jethro Tull in it.
Really
Shameful.
unforgivable.
Yeah, shame on them. Anyway, I do own the Too Old album, and it was an interesting story on how it was acquired. So this is kind of a jumpstart, not quite. Back in the days before CDs, there was a weekly Columbia House ad added to each Sunday newspaper, and for the price of a single penny, you could have a bunch of records shipped to you.
Wow.
The fine print was a promise to later buy a set number at retail price. My brother and I, as a joke, ordered a bunch of records for my 10-year-old brother. One of these was the MU Best of Tull. I don't think we really thought it through and really didn't plan on any further purchases. Well, wouldn't you know, but they kept sending new albums each month because we never followed through on their monthly mailer. Anyway, one of the deliveries was the Too Old to Rock and Roll album along with Aerosmith's Rocks, a double delivery that month. We played the heck out of it, not knowing how much it was panned by the critics, so to this day, it brings back fond memories. So I'm just now going back and listening to more of your Tull songs, and I have to say, I really enjoy the podcasts. You guys are doing an amazing job, and it was so good to see that Ian directly got back to you to answer some questions. So cool. Finally, of the 4 podcasts I've listened to, I heard there were Western New York references, Oswego, Darien Lake, and Hamlin, the one near Rochester. I believe Nick may be from the area, and it makes the show that much more enjoyable. Keep up that great work. Johnny A.
That's the first time that Central or Upstate New York has ever made anything more enjoyable for anyone.
So yes, I did respond to him and say that you were from Mexico. I was from Weedsport. Mm-hmm. I'm currently in Marietta. He asked, do we pronounce it soda or pop? It's soda, right?
I pronounce it the devil's sugar sauce.
Oh yeah, straight up poison.
I never had it in the house growing up, so
yeah.
But I think it was we always called it soda. Pop is more of like a Western New York thing.
That's Buffalo, right? I think that's a Buffalo thing. Yeah, that's pretty Western. Andy actually grew up in the Syracuse area, and he has.
No kidding.
Yeah, so he has family around here. He currently lives in Honeoye, which you.
Oh yeah,
isn't that
Honeoye Falls.
Your dad used to live there,
Honeoye.
Right?
Yeah. I used to stay in that area. Well, thank you so much for the email. That's wonderful. It's so exciting that you've discovered the podcast. If we can provide an excuse or a tickle for you to listen to more Jethro Tull, then we are doing our job.
That's it for the email from Johnny. Again, thank you so much. We encourage all of our listeners to write in. Tell us your jump starts. Let us know how you got exposed to Tull. Let us know how you found the podcast. We love hearing all that stuff. And one more thing right before we dive into the song, stay tuned, as if I have to tell you, but stay tuned to the end because we've got a little bit of a Patreon news development here. We've got an announcement for you.
That's right. At the very end of this program, we will announce a new exciting feature of the Patreon. Nick, what are we listening to? What do we have the privilege of listening to and then talking Tull about today?
This week, we are talking Urban Apocalypse.
Ooh, now, Nick, this is a new song for me. I have never put it in my ears.
Me. That's right. I forgot about that. This is exciting. So for those of you who are also lending your virginal ear canals to this song, you can join up with Omen and experience it for the first time.
For the rest of you, get ready for your sagging ear holes to once again receive the turgid sound that is Urban Apocalypse.
Whoa!
Holy banana stacks, Batman. That's a ride.
That was a ride. That was a ride on the back of the horse that the horseman is crying from. It is hectic. It is frantic. It is electric.
Yes.
And more things that rhyme with that.
It's a lot. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, there is.
May I give you my? So this is obviously the first time I've ever listened to this song. Can I give you my hot take?
My hoot to take. Yeah, please. What do you think? First time?
Not what I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting, but I think when I heard the title "Urban Apocalypse," I sort of thought, "Oh boy, here we go. Here's some kind of here's some kind of a drudging dirge."
Sure.
About things aren't as good as they used to be. And I was not, it was totally, it tricked me.
Yeah.
And then when John Evans' gorgeous sort of semi-classical, man, I could listen to him play all day.
I know, right?
And probably if he had been allowed to, he would have played all day.
Yes. I feel that feels accurate. Yeah.
You just place him in front of the piano, and then you have to physically remove him of the piano to get him to stop playing.
Yeah, even when he's not in front of a piano, his hands are moving.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they just had a rope.
A pulley
And
system.
The roadies would pull the piano away from him
Yep.
when his part was over.
Yep. No one has gone through as many pianos as John Evans has.
The budget for hand cages was immense on those tours.
Yeah, eventually it just made more sense to just get more pianos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that intro really took me into a different world, something I was really not expecting. And
Yeah.
then from there, the whole band coming in was a whole new thing that I wasn't expecting. I love this song. I think it's great.
It's very, very good. It's very, very good. That, like you said, that John Evans piano and Ian's flute coming in, it's very sweet and kind of light and lilting in that opener. But then when that guitar, that really hectic, crazy guitar, and everybody else breaks in, you've got the drums and bass and the piano.
Organ is very strong in this song.
Yeah, I was going to say the piano goes from that light to he flops it over to the organ side, and it's very effective.
Well, and it may actually be that Dee is on the organ.
Oh, sure, okay.
And that John Evans stays on the piano.
Is there piano throughout? I think I lost it. It could be.
And we definitely have lots of organ. I don't
Yeah.
think that we do have piano. I think that the piano's in the beginning and then it's out. Maybe we do have both Dee and John on different organs or different, one on an organ, one on a synth.
Yeah.
But no, the piano sets it up and then goes away.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels that sweet, nice starting sound, that intro is very, very like it sets the scene of a comfortable, happy life in the suburbs, and then the chaos begins.
Yeah, it almost, for me, the experience was like, I think if the song just dove straight in with the post piano bit,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be as open to the material.
Right. Absolutely.
I think the piano kind of draws your attention, kind of brings you in, gets you to open up emotionally.
Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah, it sets you up to feel that change in tone, as opposed to just
Right.
going in with the understanding that there was a change in tone, but you didn't experience it. You're starting later in the story.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it lulls you into a sense of openness, and then smacko.
Yeah. Yeah. Can we speaking of smacko, can we talk about that guitar sting?
Please, let's talk about that guitar sting.
Bow, 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 bow,
Yeah.
It's so tasty. It's so substantial. Every time it comes in, it's very satisfying to me. I really, really like Martin's guitar in this.
I know that there were tensions in the band, and like obviously this was the point right before the real breaking point, which of course was catalyzed by the tragic death of John Glasscock.
Uh-huh.
But I have a sense of fun from the musicians in this song.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It must be Ian on the bass, but he's tearing it up.
Yeah, he's doing a great job. He is no slouch on the bass. Substantially funky.
Yeah. We also just have so many cool riffs that are coming from the organ, from the guitar, from the flute. Barrymore is really driving everything along with
Yeah.
the sense of style. Nick, the rhythms in this song are baffling to me. I couldn't even begin to really understand the time signature.
I'm going to keep going back to the term hectic. It's such a very hectic song.
It feels that way, absolutely. But it's all incredibly tightly structured.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I mean, it is Tull in its truest regard of
Yes.
we are going to be manic and all over the place, but everybody's playing their part exactly the way they ought to be playing their part.
Yeah. And in some songs you can be like, oh, it's 4/4, but then they switch to 3/4 for this measure. This? Oh my gosh. I think there are a couple different things going on. I think that like in some parts there's some there's some kind of, standard time like a 4/4 or 2/2.
Okay.
But in those sections, the different musicians are playing kind of different rhythms that, like J-Man CeeLo has talked about, that kind of once in a while they'll sync up, but then they disassociate from each other for a while, and then they eventually come back together on the same note. So there's that polyrhythm going on.
Yeah.
There are also some massive tempo changes in here. When we have the verses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's that, kind of a steady, relatively slow beat.
Uh-huh.
But then when we go into the breakdowns, it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4 to 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
1, 2. Yeah, and I don't even think, sometimes you get that illusion from things just being sort of doubled, the time being doubled.
Sure.
I don't think that's what's happening here. I think they're actually just jump into another BPM, essentially.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, this feels very proggy. This feels like a lot of Tull, I think, and I hope I don't burn any biscuits when I say this. A lot of
you
Tull
have already toasted my biscuits with your statement, and I don't even know what it is.
A gentle toasting only.
I'm going to pull these biscuits out of the oven before you keep going.
Slather some butter on there, let it melt in.
That's right.
A lot of Tull is prog light, I think. When you think of some of the really heavy prog bands, when you think of and maybe these are not even really that heavy, but when I think of Rush or Gentle Giant or King Crimson, things like that, those are you need to sit and absorb that. At least, I don't want to say at least, but with Tull's music, it's more approachable, I think. It's a gentler ease into prog. This song is not. This is uber prog.
Yes, okay, I agree. So I have less experience with those bands, which is something that I am embarrassed to have even just said now.
I don't have a whole lot of experience with them either because they're so gosh darn proggy.
I will be speaking to my therapist about the fact that I haven't listened to Crimson King.
Oh, what about King Crimson?
I'll go with Kris Kringle.
Okay, there you go.
Or a Crinkly Krampus.
Or a Krispy Kreme donut.
Yeah, I would go for one of those right now. But I do agree that on the spectrum of Tull, this is on definitely the proggier side.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing that I love about this song is Ian singing in general.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He's at the top of his range.
Mm-hmm.
Da, 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 da.
But there's a desperation there. There's I have to get this point across, and nobody's been listening the last 10 years, so I'm going to start screaming now.
Yeah, that's true. He is sort of the rider, the horseback rider running through town being like, the British are coming, but they're us. Oh
no! The world is burning, the sky is falling, the British are coming. 2 if by air, 1 if by sea, or 2 if by land, rather. 2 if by air. Yes, they were in Zeppelins at the time.
But also there's one specific riff that I just adore. When he first sings Riding Back to Yesterday, he does this chromatic run down the scale. Riding back to yesterday. Now we're riding back to yesterday. So he's hitting each of, on the piano, he's hitting both the white and the black keys. He's hitting every single half step on the way down. O-M frickin' Jeebus. I love it.
Yeah, not that it ever really seems to be that way in prior pieces, but the singing was not an afterthought here. It was not he's really using his full instrumentation on this.
Well, and I agree. And, I think that we've seen a lot on this album of him doing that doubled technique where one of the voices is kind of down here.
Yeah. And then he sings at his comfortable range. Yeah.
Right. And I love that. I think that's so cool. I think it's very unique. But I think that in my feelings,
tell me your feelings.
Talking a lot about my feelings on this episode. I have missed perhaps him just kind of belting it out.
Yeah. This is a real treat. It's been a while. Yeah.
Because he can do it.
Yeah, and I think some of it does have to do with the delivery of the information that is this song, of the content. You know, there is desperation there.
Well, having spoken about the music, is there anything else that we want to add before we dive into that content?
I just want to say I really dig the breakdown in here.
Yes,
I feel like the breakdown could have been more of the same. It could have been less badass than the main body of the song, but it's really darn good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
The level of badassery with this song starts very high.
And maintains that trajectory.
Yeah, exactly. They keep turning it up just when you think like, oh, please, the ass could not get any badder.
Just when you think your ass could be no badder. So last week I hinted at, probably poorly worded, I hinted at this having like a long and storied past, this song.
Oh, okay.
This song, the longevity of this song has lasted far longer than I'm sure Ian ever would have imagined or wanted.
Go on.
This was 79, right? This was around Stormwatch time.
Right, the recording process for Stormwatch.
So in 1981, post-breakup of the band, right?
Pre-Brexit.
Pre-Brexit, post-breakup of Tull.
Yep.
Post-Tulksit. Dee Palmer got together with a group of gentlemen, John Evans, David Bristow, Bill Worrell, and Mickey Barker, and put together a little band called Tallis.
Yes, now we've sort of chatted about Tallis.
A little bit. We've hinted a little bit at Tallis. They wanted to bring in, they considered bringing in John Glascock before things happened. They considered bringing in John Glascock, Barrymore Barlow guests on the
interesting
on the recording as well. But this was recorded at Maison Rouge, so it's not that disconnected from Tull. But this was recorded in 81, and track number 2 is Urban Apocalypse.
Really?
Yep. And Dee put out this album, Tallis, in 2021. Recorded in 81.
Sat on it for 40 years.
She finally released it, and her blurb about Urban Apocalypse is, this was written in 1979 for Tull's Stormwatch, but it didn't make the cut. It clearly needed more time, which, regrettably, we didn't have. And after all, 3 of us were on the way to the scaffold anyway.
Oh.
Yeah.
So many interesting things. Shall we listen to the clip of the Tallis now?
Yeah.
I am actually so surprised that this isn't on Stormwatch proper.
It feels like it's a little heavier than most of Stormwatch, but I think it would fit on side B. I really do.
I just think it's such a cool song, and in terms of the playing of it, I mean, now the other thing is that we're listening to the Steve Wilson remix.
Right.
So maybe there were recording elements at the time which weren't satisfactory that have since with technology been kind of fixed.
Could have been doctored, yeah.
But I'm fascinated to hear what the Tallis version sounds like.
Yeah, let's listen to Dee's cover of it, or Dee's version of it, I suppose.
Oh, the ringing cry of progress sang the horsemen riding by. We've used up all the good God gave us, and we're riding back to yesterday.
So there's also track number 9 on this album is Urban Apocalypse without voice. So it's all just the instrumentation.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
For the karaoke version of Urban Apocalypse.
Right, if you really
so popular.
Bring your own CD to the karaoke parlor. But on top of all of that, in 20 or 2021, Dee's solo album Through Darkened Glass also had this song on it.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, the ringing cry of progress sang the horsemen riding by. We've wasted all the good God gave us, and we're riding back to yesterday.
That's like the Stephen Sondheim version of it.
Yeah, she clearly pulled it into the song, the title track, Through Darkened Glass.
Wow.
Yeah. And I had a mind-blowing moment. I read the inside of the Tallis album cover here.
Yeah.
And it says, "This is, however, only the beginning. All funds raised through sales of this album will be put toward the ultimate goal of realizing a full studio recording of The Water's Edge."
What?
A ballet score written by Dee Palmer, Ian Anderson, and Martin Barr, which was performed only a few times in 1979. People go to A New Day Records or go to MsDeePalmer.com. That's Dee's record company and her website. Buy this album so we can get The Water's Edge. Worth the purchase of this CD.
Yeah, I'm gonna go as soon as we're done recording and purchase that because I want to hear the Water's Edge.
Absolutely. And there's also, if you're not already on our mailing list, email anewday@btinternet.com if anybody wants to get on that mailing list. See what they got going on.
So Nick, this reminds me of when Gandalf says to Frodo, "'Tis a dangerous thing stepping out onto the road. You never know where it might take you."
So when Dee left the band, she didn't realize that she would be revisiting Urban Apocalypse so many times?
No, I think when I listened to Urban Apocalypse, I didn't realize all the things that it was connected to.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah. And it clearly resonated with Dee.
Well, and I suspect that there must be some level on which Dee felt some kind of artistic ownership or artistic responsibility for this song.
Sure.
Otherwise, she wouldn't have. It seems doubtful to me that she would have put so much work into it.
After the fact, yeah.
Yes. Post her time with Tull. But let's sort of return to the nugget at hand.
Yeah. Let's talk lyrics now. Yeah.
Let's talk lyrics. In our Tull cabinet,
yes,
we have various file folders.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this one sits solidly in the world is very bad and getting worse folder.
Right. Subheading Stormwatch, essentially.
Subheading Stormwatch, subheading environmental degradation through the Industrial Revolution.
Right.
Through the processes of the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah. It's a look at life, at a life that gets crushed under capitalism. And it's not just the environment that's suffering now. It's everything and everyone.
That's right. I mean, not super opaque, actually, the lyrics on this. For me, I think at least. Maybe others would have a different experience. And by the same token, sometimes we look at lyrics and we're like, what the hell does it mean? And someone else is like, oh, obviously it's this.
It's just the last man at the party. Just someone wish me a happy new year.
Right. Right. But I mean, we have halt the ringing cry of progress.
Halt the ringing cry of progress.
That's very clear. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop doing the things.
Stop. You think you're making progress. You think life is getting better and better, but put a stop to it.
Well, and that's interesting. Often we have Ian's critique of modernism is very tongue-in-cheek, very kind of caged in multiple interpretation or very observational.
Uh-huh.
Here it's stop.
Yeah, fair enough. It is imperative. Like there's no room. There's no wiggle room here.
And he creates the character of the horseman.
Right.
So it's not him. It's, in theory, not Ian saying directly, stop the ringing cry of progress. It's the horseman of warning. But still, that almost makes it more powerful.
That ties perfectly into the apocalypse part. The four horsemen of the apocalypse. They're the harbinger.
Yes.
They're the ones who show up before the apocalypse happens.
That should have been blazingly obvious to me. And yet, somehow...
Really, horseman is like the key word there. Context clues, Omen.
It rang a bell, but I was like, what?
Yeah, that's a guy on a horse.
What's that bell?
What's that bell? I hear a bell.
I hear a bell.
Is that a bell?
Is it my dinner bell?
I'm hungry. I'm salivating now.
I think that, you kind of hit the nail on the head with they've used up all the good God gave us.
We've used up all the good God gave us.
I think that is not only an environmental, but also a moral factor.
Yeah, because once you get that ball rolling in terms of using up resources or being in a position of power to make these decisions,
yes.
Once you reach that brink of, well, we better stop or we're going to start harming the land, it's too late.
Yes, and also I think there's this steady move toward Oh, well, they're just workers, oh yeah, well, they can take more.
Yeah.
They're asking to work.
Yeah, cogs in the machine. If they don't work, someone else will. They need it.
If we don't allow these 8-year-olds to work in the factory, those 8-year-olds aren't going to be able to make money and support their parents.
We're giving them a job.
Exactly.
What good are they getting in school? I mean, come on.
There's this steady undermining of humanity. And
Yeah.
we see it today. I mean, look at I don't know why this is on my mind recently, but the whole debate around Uber and
Sure.
it's this massive corporation who are making money off of independent contractors.
Right. Yeah. The gig economy.
And they've done everything they can to keep them as independent contractors and not have them be employees, because that would mean they would have to acknowledge, in a sense, their humanity more.
Well, it's not just Uber. I mean, it's the exact same thing. I hope nobody's listening, but Raven is doing that in that exact same position for AT&T, the biggest telecom company in the world. And they're doing the same thing.
It's the model. It's the modern model.
Yeah.
Everyone, all companies want to make as much money as they can and give as little as they can get away with to the people who are actually doing the work.
Yeah. Because that's how you make money.
Because that's how you make a staggering stack of money.
Yeah. Yeah. A Scrooge McDuck's vault worth of money that you can go swimming in.
Yeah. Whew. So that's where we start.
Yeah.
And then, the rest of it is pretty stark, I would say.
Yeah.
I don't know if we need to go line by line. I do want to talk about the second verse.
I do too. Yep. I think there's some great layering in that second verse.
Okay, so turn the tables in the temples.
Turn the tables and the temples.
First of all, I think that we have to, like you saw so clearly, the horseman is, in relation to the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Uh-huh.
I think the temples makes me immediately think of the story from the Bible of Jesus throwing the moneylenders out of the temples.
Well, literally flipping their tables. Like he
Yes,
flips
yes.
the tables and spills their money. So turn the table in the temples.
And the reason he did that was because in the Bible, for Mr. J, by whom I do not mean the Joker.
Not the Joker.
In the DC comics.
Yeah.
Although he's sort of an interesting anti-capitalist figure.
We can explore that, sure.
We can explore that on our other podcast. Dissect DC to me.
Oh, I'd be willing to do that.
But Jesus was like, well, this is immoral. You can't lend money and you can't make money by lending money and then getting people into debt for your own profit.
Yeah.
That's absurd. And especially you're doing it in a holy space.
Yeah.
Get the heck out of here.
Yeah, that's where it's easier to get a camel through the eye of a needle than a rich man in
a rich
heaven?
man into heaven.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting little tidbit about that. My grandfather was a
camel.
My grandfather was a camel.
He fit through the eye of a needle so easily.
Massive needle.
Yeah, big one.
No, he was a linguist, amongst other things. He did a lot of stuff. But he retranslated some of that particular line, and he found that there had been a mistranslation at some point. And so the original was, it's easier to fit a rope through the eye of a needle.
Huh.
Which makes a lot more
camel.
sense because it's like a thread. A rope is a big version of a thread.
Yeah.
And like a camel through an eye of a needle, like, yeah, it's big. It doesn't work. But like the idea of trying to fit a rope through a needle, through the eye of a needle.
It translates. It makes
more sense.
Yeah. That's interesting. But also turn the tables in the temples. Turn the tables.
Oh, how the tables have turned.
Yeah, to turn the advantage to your own from someone who had that advantage.
Right.
And further in this verse here, we get an idea of the temples that he's referring to.
The Holy Trinity.
Of life assurance, which is a type of insurance, and all insurance is kind of a racket unless they actually treat people like legitimate things.
Die.
Yeah. General Motors and Silicon Efficiency. So these are the temples now that we worship at. And because we worship and we give our money to car companies and tech companies and insurance companies, that is how we worship there. That is how we pray. And because we are praying there, we are obviously giving them the power. They hold all the power.
And also that idea of a trinity in this sense gives me the feeling of, being pinched between the physical industry, the digital industry, and the price of living, which is like there's all these things that you pay for that are not essential to being alive.
Right. Yeah.
Like a cell phone.
Yeah.
You don't need a cell phone to grow a tomato, but you need a cell phone to operate in the modern world.
Right, exactly. How disconnected do you want to be, and how feasible, particularly at this point in the game, not this point, the point of the song, but you and me, like how feasible is it to be completely disconnected and off the grid? If we lived on a farm up in the Appalachian Trail somewhere and had everything that we needed, okay, I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, but that kind of choice is becoming more and more and more difficult. And that's the choice that the horseman is kind of demanding. He's
right.
saying, let's leave all of this.
Yeah. Turn the tables, burn it down. Let's get out of this because this is our last chance, it seems.
The race is run, no prize you lose.
The race is run, no prize you lose.
That's very powerful. It's like we're all running this race under the assumption that there's some kind of reward for running it.
Yeah.
There's no reward.
Yeah,
right.
Just lose. The winners are that holy trinity, and they're not even in the race.
Exactly. Ugh.
Yeah.
This is a very revolutionary song.
It is.
That I had never heard this song before. And I can see why Dee is so into it.
Yeah, I hadn't heard it. I hadn't heard this version before I heard it in Through Darkened Glass. When I heard those stings, I was like, where have I heard this before? This sounds super familiar. And thank goodness those stings translated between Tallis and Dee's work as well.
Yeah.
They're so potent. They're so good.
I want to skip to a line in the next verse.
Sure.
Let reason reassume its seat.
Let reason reassume its seat.
Now, I think that there is both I think that line for me both represents a logical fallacy and a very interesting historical perspective.
Okay.
The logical fallacy is that, there's often this idea in people's minds and often in Tull songs of like things used to be good and now they're bad.
Sure.
That's a very ancient concept. Early on, I think one of the early writers had this idea of, there used to be a golden age, and now we've kind of gone through the ages, and now we're now we're sort of living. It's a very very old concept. Oh, the ancients did it so well. That find that in Eastern culture as well, and it's all silly.
We talked about that with like the Dark Ages, right? Isn't that?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah,
and it's patently false. Things.
Right.
Things historically have always been improving for mankind. It goes up and down and up and down.
On a super basic, like boiled down level, it's the grass is always greener. Oh, the good old days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
However, I think that using reason makes me think of that he's referring to specifically the age of Enlightenment when Europe was moving from the Middle Ages really through the Renaissance into this era of like, wait a minute, was it Descartes? Who was like, wait a minute, let's actually just think and base things on reason.
Yeah.
Rather than like, totally blindly following religion, totally blindly following these outdated modes of thinking.
Yeah, tradition, just following tradition, because that's
exactly
the way it's been done.
But I almost feel like Ian is saying, right, okay, Age of Enlightenment, good, but then we took the wrong course from there. So let's backtrack to there and then take a better track. And I think there's a lot of value. I think that's a good point.
Yeah, maybe even simpler, enlightenment is good. Let's continue to try to be enlightened. Let's take a lesson from that.
Right. But we have to reject all of these modern things that are destroying our souls, our sense of moral existence, our happiness, and the environment.
Because we cannot be enlightened while that is happening. It hinders enlightenment. And then the end of that verse is, you hold the reins of the apocalypse.
Mm-hmm.
You hold the reins of the apocalypse.
It's in your control. If everyone just gets vaccinated, if all the companies stop putting out carbon, start trying to make a difference, we could turn this shit around.
Yeah. But horsey go fast.
But horse go fast and car drive vroom vroom, and you got a vaccine, so I don't need a vaccine. And you're the sucker who got the vaccine.
My horse must be prettier than other horses.
My horse better than anyone else.
So the next verse, Nick, I had to break out the old dictionary.
For atavistic?
Actually, yes.
Okay.
But I was also like, I want to make sure that I understand the word iniquity. I think I understand it, but let me make sure I understand it. So iniquity is an immoral or grossly unfair behavior.
Yeah.
Goes back to the Bible. Biblically, iniquity refers to sin against God.
A little history of Nick McGill here.
It's the Nick Minute.
I was an altar boy. And one of the things that I would do as an altar boy is you walk over with the holy water for the priest to like dip his fingers in, and you've got the little napkin on your arm so he can grab it and clean his hands. And what he says when he dips his fingers in, I don't know if I'm not supposed to say this.
You can say it.
Statute of limitations. I haven't been an altar boy in a very long time. He says, "Lord, wash away my iniquity, cleanse me of my sins."
Oh, yeah.
So that's how I know what iniquity is, because that is burned into my memory.
Right. And I had always known the phrase den of iniquity.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think I understood the phrase better than I understood the individual word.
I understood that everywhere I went became a den of iniquity. I don't know how, though.
I understood that felt like home, but I didn't know why. So yes, galvanize yourself to action, cast aside iniquity. It's very biblical, actually.
Sure.
It's like cast away the sin of the way that you participate in the modern world.
And the idea of the apocalypse is also biblical. I mean, it fits into a lot of cultures, but I mean, we know Ian has taken a shining to religious imagery,
Indeed.
So atavistic.
The atavistic voice has spoken.
Cast aside iniquity. The atavistic voice has spoken.
Okay, atavistic. Had to go to the dictionary for that one. 16th century word comes from the Latin atavus, which means forefather. So, atavistic means of or relating to or returning to something ancient.
Ancestral.
Yeah.
But atavistic as an adjective is characterized by the reversion to something, so going back to it.
Yes, exactly. So the atavistic voice is the one that says, go back to the way things were.
Right, yeah. Which in some cases is great, some cases not so great. But I mean, in this instance, maybe that's what we need to be doing.
The atavistic voice is very present in the song Heavy Horses. It's very present throughout the album Songs from the Wood.
Yeah, these last three albums, sure.
Yes. And I think that as you get older, maybe you start remembering the kind of things that your parents told you, and then you start thinking, oh yeah, I should sort of try to do that.
Yeah, there's a level of nostalgia and a level of you reach a point where the atavistic, the ancestral wisdom starts to make sense,
Yeah.
Because when you're told it makes sense to the people who are telling you that, but you don't have the worldview to be like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't do this thing, or
maybe I should change my oil every 30,000 miles.
Maybe I do need a box spring instead of just a mattress on the floor.
That's what Big Box Spring wants you to think.
Yeah, my parents were in the pocket of Big Box Spring.
Sure.
Anything else, Omen?
Just that, I think the phrase, now print your names in history, is very interesting. It's like,
Now print your names in history.
It's a little bit of a different argument from the rest of the song. The rest of the song is, turn this boat around, because otherwise we're going to go over the waterfall of doom.
Right.
And the last thing is almost an appeal to the ego, saying like, look, you could be one of the few who actually stood up to this world destruction. Your name could go down in history.
Oh.
It's funny to me that there's a little bit of an appeal. Like it's an appeal to reason. It's an appeal to reason. It's kind of raging against the machine, as it were. And then at the end, there's that little, almost like a last ditch effort.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Is it like, well, maybe none of this has worked, but maybe I can tie into that nugget that is still there and say, I mean, if nothing else, like, hey, you could get your 15 minutes of fame if the world doesn't burn up.
That's the way I interpret it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, again, we've talked about this before, that you and I come from an acting background. And when you were trained in the art of thespianism,
hot. I experimented with that in college.
That, you look for motivation in the text. And what's your motivation?
Yeah.
What do you want? And then as you're, as the words are always in an effort to get what you want.
Right.
And your actions on stage are always an effort to get what you want. So I think that, looking through this, that seems like a slight change in tactic.
Yes, absolutely. And right at the very end.
Literally as he's riding away.
Yeah.
It's like he comes into town on his horse and he's like, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. The time is now.
Yeah. Do it, you can make the difference. Yeah.
This reminds me of the St. Crispin's Day speech.
Oh, okay.
Henry V, Act 4, Scene 3, where at the very end of it, King Henry, it's this huge thing. It's the eve of the Battle of Agincourt. The English are fairly certain they're all going to get massacred. And he's rallying the troops. And at the very, very end, he says, "We few, we happy few, we band of brothers, for he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. Be he ne'er so vile, this day shall gentle his condition. And gentlemen in England, now abed, shall think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap, whilst any speak that fought with us upon St. Crispin's Day." So it's like, we can do it. We will be gloried in history if we actually do this thing. And everyone else will wish they were us.
Yeah, it's the call to arms. It's the appeal to ego and glory and of
honor.
Course, at the time, masculinity.
Yeah. If you could rename this song using any of the words in the song itself, what would you name it? And I'll tell you why I'm asking that, because I think that my least favorite thing about this song is the title.
Oh, interesting.
Urban
Okay.
Apocalypse. Oh my God. It sounds like a fast fashion store in the mall. Where'd you get this jeans? Urban Apocalypse.
Urban Apocalypse, yeah. Isn't there something with urban in the Urban Outfitters?
Outfit.
That's yeah.
Forever 21 Apocalypse. Apocalypse 21.
Apocalypse Forever. I like maybe atavistic voice.
Oof. Yeah. That'll get it on the radio.
Yeah, because that was always Tull's modus operandi, is to make those radio hits.
Yeah, that's true. I would say Riding Back to Yesterday.
Oh, yeah. I like it.
Oh, there's one other thing. It stands waiting in the slips. It being the apocalypse, what are the slips?
No, reason being the it. Let reason reassume its seat. It stands waiting in the slips.
Right. What are the slips?
Oh, is that just the side on the theater?
No, the slips are. It's a boat making term.
Oh,
the slips are the things that guide the ship. You build a ship in dry dock. You
Oh,
build it on the land, and then
yeah.
you slip it into the ocean, and the slips are the things that it rides on. So if it's
Huh.
waiting in the slips, it is ready to launch.
yeah.
You just got to pull the stop locks and bust the champagne bottle, and then
That's
goes
nice.
in.
That's really good imagery.
I just think it's so cool.
Yeah, that's really, really good imagery. Next week, our final track, bonus or otherwise, off of Stormwatch,
Yeah.
another one that you have not heard before, is Man of God.
The forecast for next week is calling for Man of God with a slight chance of being sad because it's the end of Stormwatch.
But, I mean, we're getting right into A after that, so everybody's excited for that.
Hey!
It's A!
And Nick, finally, as we promised at the beginning, we have an exciting new little announcement. If you haven't signed up for Patreon yet, this is your sign that you should. It's super fun and it's super cheap. Nick, what is the exciting new feature of the Patreon
So our Patreon subscribers at Tull Skull Plus, just $5 a month, get access to, you already know they get access to Outtake Tull to me. They get access to the Discord. However, at the end of last year, we stopped recording Talk Tull with me because all of the correspondence was really going on in the Discord, which is a great resource. So Omen and I came up with another option, another bonus podcast for everybody. We are calling it Feckless.
That's right. And Feckless is, for the time being, what we're doing is we are actually looking at some of the solo albums from Ian Anderson, other band members, some of the albums that are adjacent to Tull. Probably Tallis is going to be on that list. And we are dedicating an episode or two to each of those albums. So, obviously Talk Tull to Me is every single song that Jethro Tull ever released. Now we're kind of expanding to albums that are associated with Tull that we don't have the chance, or it's not within our purview to talk about on this podcast. Very exciting.
In addition to that, we've toyed with the idea of taking song suggestions from people on the Patreon who are suggesting things that are not Tull related at all.
Yes.
And we'll give them the Talk Tull to Me treatment, but just coming from an area that Omen and I really don't have the expertise in. But I mean, that's how we started.
That's never stopped us before.
We've got that.
And, I think the point is that when you subscribe to the Patreon, you have access to this conversation, and the conversation really results in things like the new podcast, Feckless, and the direction of that. So you can really actually affect the content that we create.
Absolutely. And we are thinking of Feckless as being much more broad and open and leaving room for it to evolve all over the place.
You can get in on the ground floor. You'd be losing money not to invest in this podcast.
So join in to the Patreon to get access to that. It's a lot of fun. In January, we covered Walk Into Light.
That's right.
Ian's first solo album. And it was a good time.
Yeah.
It was a good time had by all. Spoiler alert.
Until next week. Whereas in the race of life and capitalism there is no prize, you can give us the prize of 5 stars, which will bump up our ratings and make us more accessible to other listeners in the podsphere. Turn the tables in the temple of Apple Podcasts by writing a positive review for us, which will be read by other. Cry the ringing cry from your digital horseman back and warn other people that they should start listening to Talk Tull.
He lost it.
I've never had it. It was never mine to lose.
Until next week, I am no messiah to change your views, Nick McGill.
I am the breadless Q, Omen Sade, because I don't do carbs.
We are here to galvanize you into action as the Feckless Momes.
And this is the ringing cry of progress, Talk Tull to Me. Here, here.
Yes,
here. Meeting called to order.
Yeah.
Meeting called to order. This is a meeting of the overlords of the Holy Trinity of Life Assurance, General Motors, and Silicon Efficiency.
Yes. We're here.
Is everyone here? Silicon Efficiency, please state your progress.
Yes, we've put chips and computers into all the hands, and we've made them very dependent upon it.
I assume they're also incredibly expensive and unreliable.
Oh, absolutely. They become obsolete within a year. They have to buy a new one. Everyone stands in line for no reason. It's
glorious. Well, that's fantastic. Well,
yeah,
it's too bad you can't find a way to terribly pollute the atmosphere while you're doing that.
Oh, no, we've been doing that right from the start. Yes.
Oh, tremendous news, tremendous. Oh, that's lovely. Lovely. General Motors. Yes, General Motors, what is your report for this year?
Cars are more expensive than they've ever been. They are a lot harder to get, which drives up the price thanks to the manufactured pandemic that we've created as well.
Oh, that's lovely. That's lovely.
To drive up the economy.
And I know we were worried about the train industry taking away our profits, but has there been any progress on on the destruction of trains.
Absolutely, they are all but obsolete.
Trains.
Vehicles have become something of a status symbol for people, and some families have 2 or 3 for no reason, but they keep buying them, so we keep putting them out.
That's amazing. That's lovely. And then finally, let's see, the report on things that people spend money on in huge quantity, for which if they don't, they are punished, but don't actually do anything positive for them. Where's that department?
Life assurance is here, sir. Yes, we're here.
Oh, yes, yeah. Yes, let's hear your report.
Well, we have fought very hard with the government to fight the subsidies for life assurance, but they are being persistent. However, the life assurance that we are offering during government assistance is absolute garbage, and it's very difficult to get.
Yes. And Peaky, please make a note that we need to purchase more of the government.
Yes, all right. Writing that down now. Purchase more of the government. Very good. Yes.
Thank you, Peaky. Well, that concludes... Oh, wait. This is a closed meeting. You can't come in here. Who is that? My God.
Oh, dear God, who is this? Who is this?
Who's coming? Oh, that stinking long hair and that flute. You can't ride a horse into here.
The time has come for you to recognize that Tull to me is a proud member of the Feckless Films Audio Network!
My tables!